This is Sharon Kendrew, President and CEO of High Road Incorporated, and you're listening to the business side of music.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
In the studio with us today here in Nashville, Tennessee, founder and CEO Nikki Sanz is the brains and heart behind Gigs, the first job posting and social networking platform for the touring industry. Hailing from Charlotte, North Carolina, Nikki has navigated the entertainment industry with hustle and ambition. I like that in a person. The day after graduating from Elon University, Nikki moved to Nashville to pursue a career in the music industry. Within 6 months, she had secured such various gigs as working for Live Nation, the Ryman Auditorium, Bold Recording Studios, CMA Music Fest, CMT, I got to take a deep breath here, Ascend Amphitheater, and she was offered her first touring gig with Eric Church, which I want to talk about. For the next 3 years, she toured as the production assistant for Eric, and as well as George Strait, Weezer, John Party, Alison Krauss, among others. I got to say, I didn't even know Weezer was still touring. So.
Oh, yeah. They're all over the place. They're all over the world right now.
I'm glad to hear that. She has filled her time spent off the road with various other gigs in the entertainment industry. So just preface here, when I got off the road, I vegged. You went out and looked for other work.
Well, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, okay.
That's the crazy thing.
Although
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that.
After 5 days, I'm like, okay, I'm Jones and I got to get back on the bus. All right, well, let me finish this. This included working for the Super Bowl, ABC's The Bachelor casting, Bonnaroo Festival, ACM Awards, I did say that right, corporate events, and music videos. She has worked for such other artists as Beyonce, Roger Waters, Darius Rucker, Justin Bieber, Dolly Parton, Bruno Mars, and Journey. Just kind of no-name acts.
Yeah, I haven't heard of them.
Yeah, never heard of them. Talking about her company, Gigs is the centralized hub where the best touring industry professionals and companies can connect, collaborate, and discover job opportunities more efficiently than ever before. Boy, is that needed. Gigs transforms a previously fragmented word-of-mouth industry into a more efficient marketplace. Nikki, welcome to the show.
Thank you. That bio is way too long. We got to cut that down.
And listen, I shortened it up.
Okay.
I just took out the good points.
No, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
Oh.
It's awesome being in the studio. So thank you. Thank you.
I started touring back in late 70s, early 80s. We didn't have internet back then. We didn't have cell phones. People said, how'd you do it? And I said, well, you take a notepad and a roll of quarters. Find a payphone, and that's how you did gigs. And I think around 1983, the internet was still kind of off in the distance a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But there were programs out there on the computer to where you could hook up your 300 baud modem, because, boy, that was the technology back then. And as soon as it went through its bells and whistles, it'd hook up to a service. And I'm trying to remember what it's called. I think it was called e-touring back in the day.
Okay.
And it was like, okay, this tour is looking for this person and this tour is looking for that person. And man, I thought that was just the hot commodity. The only problem with it was it cost a fortune to subscribe to it. Technology has changed.
Mm-hmm.
So with that all being said, I want to back up a little bit because you're the founder and CEO of Gigs. Were you so inclined to get into the music business in the very beginning? I mean, at what point in your life, high school or college, did you go, I think I want to live on the road?
Oh, I actually remember exactly when. I've always loved music, and I had my major in college was sport and event management. So I thought I loved sports. I was going to work in sports. So I got an internship at the Greensboro Coliseum complex doing all kinds of different sports events. I was asked to work the Dolly Parton concert. I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And while working that was when I saw from an empty arena to how the stage was being built, all the different people that put it together, all the tour buses. I didn't even know it took hundreds of people to put on a show. That was when I told my now mentor, how do I get on the road?
Yeah.
I got to do that. And so ever since I guess I was 19, I was getting through college with my sport management major and I'm going into music. And so I moved to Nashville right after I graduated college, knowing that as soon as I got into the town, that's when I could start making connections to somehow get on the road.
My older sister works at a theater, small theater in West Tennessee, and she sent me a picture Saturday. She was the production runner.
Yes.
Normally she's like an usher, getting people to their seats, taking tickets, things like that. They asked her to be a production runner for this show.
That's great.
And she said, oh my gosh, now I know what it takes to put on a concert. And I went, yeah, that's what your brother's been doing for 50 some odd years.
Exactly.
So when you take all the bells and the whistles and the glitter and the shining lights, it is business.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of moving parts. And when we say a lot of moving parts, not only the technical aspect of it, but the physical aspect of it, the people, the roadies, the bus drivers, the truck drivers. How do we find those people, especially to make a successful tour?
Isn't that the craziest thing?
Yeah.
It's a world that most people don't even know about. You just go to a concert and you see your favorite artist, but you don't actually see all that it took to put that show on, the hundreds of people it takes. So, it's funny because even on our side, there's not a standard way of finding these jobs. It really is everyone. And I want to hear your path to the road too, because usually everyone has a similar story of, I know I want to do this. I got to meet the right person at the right time, get the right gig, get the right first opportunity, and then prove something of myself to then get the next one. Or it's, yeah, my friend just needed someone to mix sound. And so I jumped on a tour bus and then 30 years later, they're still touring. So it's somewhere in there where it's still all relies on people. And I love that about this industry, but it's extremely inefficient and it's so fragmented. And so we're struggling on both ends to find that gig. I mean, I'm getting texts every week, even before I started the company. Hey, if you hear of anything, let me know. Or, hey, if you hear of anyone, let me know. I mean, I got 5 emails today. We need a front of house engineer. We need a tour manager. And I'm like, it's crazy when big promoters and companies and artist management are asking anyone they can if they know of anyone. So I think after post-pandemic, when everyone's back out and we lost a lot of people, it's the time to have a centralized place to just go, to know that no matter what, if you run out of people to ask, the traditional way of going, then you can still go somewhere else to find quality people.
Yeah. When I started touring, and my first real professional tour, which went beyond, sleeping in a van on top of all the sound gear, was 1983. And how that came about was a friend of mine, an old guitar player in a band back from our high school days when we had our garage band. He called me up one day, and he lived in the Bay Area, and I lived in Southern California. And he said, I'm looking for a guitar tech and a stage manager. Would you be interested? And I went, absolutely. What's a guitar tech and a stage manager? Because once again, back in those days, you didn't have the internet. You couldn't, look this stuff up.
Right.
But I knew how to tune a guitar, and I knew what the difference between stage right and stage left and upstage and downstage. But that was how you got the gigs. It was word of mouth. It was relationships. And you hoped that one gig spawned another gig that spawned another gig.
Yes.
Years later, it came down to managers got to know me and agents got to know me. And I actually got known as being a smoke jumper. I was the guy who would jump into fires, on tours. We have this problem, we have that problem, how would you handle it? Great. Here's an airline ticket. You're on a plane tonight, But we really don't approach it that way anymore, do we? Or do we?
I need to now create a job called Smoke Jumper on the site. That's pretty amazing. Oh, man, I think that's because you treated it like a business back then. I think now most of the people in the touring industry are treating it like a business, not just a gig, because that is the way that artists make all of their money now, because they're not making anything on streaming. They're making it in merch and in ticket sales. So because that's their main, revenue generator, it has to be treated so seriously.
Right.
And what I've noticed, my experience on the road, just hearing everyone's stories, is it can be a really toxic place out there if you don't have the right blend of people. This person might be a great worker, but in this camp, maybe not the right fit. And what's so hard is if you have someone that's just not the right fit, it's so hard to fire that person to get someone else, because getting that person in the first place was hard enough.
Right.
And so same on the other side. If you know this isn't the right fit, you just stick through it and you're miserable because getting that gig was so hard in itself. So my dream is to have gigs be the place where it's so much easier to find and fill staff, find tours, that everyone finds the best fit, and it's just more cohesive, and because we're a bunch of carnies out there,
How do we find out what the right fit is? Because like you said, you can have 12 people on a tour bus, and one of them is a worker bee, but that person is also the most, really? Like your feet stink and, you've got bad breath and you tell the worst jokes and nobody likes you. Why do you have to be such a good worker?
Oh my gosh. That's always the biggest thing for me. I'm like, well, they can get the job done so well, but they're hard to be around.
They're socially awkward.
Yes.
Is really a lot of it.
You know what really, it's funny talking to so many different production companies and hiring managers now is they're like, we would rather have the good hang and teach them than have the best person at the job and no one can get along. And that is the music industry. That truly is. And I mean, I think that's life. You just would rather live with people that you enjoy being around. So on gigs, and I know we're going to get into it, but that's something that you can be endorsed for, is a good hang or trustworthy or, a good bus hang. And so if maybe on your profile you're getting majorly endorsed for good hang and not as much for like punctuality or something like that.
Doesn't know the difference between stage right and stage left.
Oh my gosh, that would be really funny to endorse. Yeah. I think that's where you look for, what am I looking for in this production assistant? What am I looking for in this guitar tech? That's a very different personalities. You need someone who is gonna whip someone into shape as a production assistant or as a tour manager, but you still need them to be kind. It's hard right now to find that fit. Yeah.
Well, and I think we've also, and you said it yourself, post-pandemic, we lost a lot of good people who just said, well, I haven't been able to tour for a year or two or more, and I finally found a gig where I can sleep in my own bed at night, and I have a 401k and a health plan, and I'm not going back out on the road. But there's still a lot of people out there who want that moment. Yeah, I was that way for many years. I get it.
I love I just got a text today if I could work at Nissan to do VIP, because I want to do all the local gigs now. I don't want to tour anymore. Once I got used to sleeping in my own bed, I was like, okay, I don't think I'm done. But that's where another huge thing with gigs is you're going to be able to pick up local gigs so much easier. It's like there's a whole job category titled local gigs. And I'm curious what you think. This is how I envision the touring industry moving. It's getting so expensive to tour that I envision tours shrinking and just being like skeleton mostly. And all of those, multiple people in lighting and in video, audio can be hired locally potentially and really cut down on costs of travel expenses. Buses are insane hard to get. So, hopefully with a site like Gigs where you can type in Milwaukee and find 30 really good front of house engineers, or, you'd probably travel with a front of house engineer, but maybe an audio tech, you would feel more comfortable having a smaller tour and hiring local in every city.
I actually am a part of a site on Facebook that's called Artist Managers Connect.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I see almost every day. I've got a limited run. It's 8 cities. We're going to go from Albuquerque, New Mexico to Cheyenne, Wyoming. Mm-hmm. And I need a front of house person, or I need a monitor engineer, or I need a merch person. They must have a valid driver's license because they're going to drive the 12-passenger van pulling the trailer. We're leaving tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, always.
And I'm like, you didn't jump ahead of that horse, did you?
That's so crazy. Oh, my gosh. Or even crazier than that, of posting on Facebook, I see it on Instagram stories, which are only your followers, some followers see, and it's only live for 24 hours. It's getting that disjointed and unprofessional.
Well, we have to understand once again that we've said it. This is a business. And as you said, it is becoming so vitally important for tours to make money these days. Used to be you toured to promote a record. That's why you went out.
Right.
You were touring to promote this album, and the album made so much money that you didn't really care whether the tour made money or not.
Wow.
And that's how it was in the 70s and the 80s when I was in the business. About 1998, 99, people started in the business, started saying, we really need to start making money doing this because we can't. And so the tide turned.
Wow.
Okay. And now all of a sudden you've got tours. And I think that's one of the reasons we saw the increase in ticket prices go up in the early 2000s. And unfortunately, they seem to still be going up.
Oof. Yeah.
But now, as you said, the expense, the cost of producing a tour, the buses, the trucks, the sound, the lights. Forget about the bodies right now. We're talking about the gear, the physical aspect of it, the technical aspect of it, I should say.
Right.
Has become so expensive that it's almost cost prohibitive for a lot of acts to tour.
Yes. And that's where I hope locally we can find people, but yes, it's become so expensive, and people are having a harder time deciding, okay, let me just uproot my life and tour for not exactly what I want to be making. And so that's another reason. How are we going to pay people what they're worth? Otherwise, they're just going to get off the road.
Well, and I think for many, many years, the road dog, which is really encapsulating the tour manager, the production manager, the front of house, the monitor, the guitar tech, carpenters, etc. Those road dogs for many years were not paid what they were worth.
Right.
But you had the excitement and the thrill and, I'm on the road and I'm on a bus and this is the coolest thing. And really, in those days, it was.
Absolutely.
And I think to a certain extent, it still is. But money is commensurate with the job experience.
So the Spidey Cam in NFL?
Yes.
Yes. When I was out with Eric Church, we had 2 of those in an arena. So you have to have the people that can put it together. And I mean, that's a difficult thing to run. That's
Very
just not
technical.
a handheld. It's extremely technical. So the type of talent is going to be more expensive, and like the liability. You can't just hire anybody. You can't just say, oh, we're down a video guy, let's just get anybody. Like that's a hard job.
Well, not only that, if something goes wrong, let's say that camera falls and clunks, 6 people, the liability, the insurance issues. Oh my gosh. You're right. You have to have someone that is very technically accessible to being able to do that.
So if you see a tour manager who's constantly stressed out to no end, it's because that person not only, works with the artist and then works with the artist management, the venues, advancing everything, being a leader to the whole tour, but then also being the HR director, and is like, oh my gosh, if anything catastrophic happens, it is on them because they hired that person or they're managing that person. And it's definitely not a fair job, I think, to ask a tour manager to HR. I mean, that's crazy to me.
But that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had this conversation with someone on a previous podcast where the tour manager or the road manager really becomes the babysitter, the relationship and or marriage counselor, you really need to stop drinking.
Oh my gosh.
Or doing drugs. It's, you become that. Sometimes you have to put on the pair of pants where you have to go out and find the artist because they've disappeared. And that's happened to me more than
Really?
once. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, where's my artist? I don't know. Our show's in 2 hours.
Oh my gosh.
And then they walk in the door 15 minutes before. In the meantime, they've done CPR, and I've had a stroke. But yes, you wear all of those hats. So being an HR director is not fair, but it kind of falls in line with all of those job responsibilities.
Definitely. I think when I recognized that and I was a PA, I think I was like, well, I don't think I want to tour manage anymore. And I think I'm just going to get off the road. But that's also what leads me to, okay, you're a roadie. You have all these really unique skills and you get off the road. What are you supposed to do?
Right.
Especially I had no idea what I was going to do. And that's why I thought maybe artist management might make sense. That's when I started just helping a tour manager out. And I was helping him staff tours. And that's when I came up with the idea for gigs.
Yeah.
But, I just, what did you do when you got off the road?
If I couldn't find a local gig
Yeah.
as a stagehand at the local auditorium, I would be on the phone calling, looking for other road gigs.
Wow.
Or I think if you wait for the phone to ring, you're killing time.
Yes.
You really are.
Yes.
But I think if you can get out there and hustle and make the phone calls, there was an occasion or two where I drove to booking agents' offices.
Wow.
I call them ahead of time, say, hey, I'm going to be in town. I want to come on by and see you. And, I sit down and chat with them for 15, 20 minutes because they didn't have a lot of time and they're supposed to be on the phone booking gigs, and I get it. But that's how I'd work it.
Wow.
And then sure enough, I'd get a phone call and they'd say, hey, we just, the management just fired this last tour manager or production manager. Are you available? Let me look at my calendar. Yes.
And that's the hustle.
Yeah.
And they only thought of you because you kept popping up in their phone book. And you kept popping up. That's what I tell people trying to get in. I'm like, you just annoy people until you get a gig. I mean, you just have to, everyone needs to know your name and that you're looking for it. But that's unfair too. I mean, that's just, it's a crazy system.
It's all about relationships.
It is.
Ultimately at the end.
Yep. Well, and then, so there are two parts of that. One is if it's relational, and I mean, that's the way I like that it's that way. It's a very unique industry, but that can end up hurting people in a way where, say I'm not in this friend group of all men and they think of a gig and they might just ask their guys first. How would I even have a shot? So this is kind of for minorities, women, people of color that might not be in those inner circles,
right,
that have no chance at that gig.
Right.
So I hope that gigs brings, levels of playing field and opportunity, at least just gets you in the ring to know that, hey, I'm here and I could fit this perfectly. You just don't even know who I am yet. That's a huge goal with that. And on the other side, to close the last conversation, gigs is going to have touring gigs, but then also non-touring. So, and just local and then non-touring. So, yeah, one of our partners is Shure microphone. I'm sure that one of these is probably a Shure microphone. And
it's not, but that's okay.
Oh, we gotta upgrade this. I'm just kidding. But they have plenty of jobs they want to post with us that are not touring, and it's just a warehouse job. So they want to get, oh my gosh, if that's for an audio guy that's on the road ready to get off, they could come right into Shure's warehouse.
Yeah. We're going to take a break, get a word in for a couple of our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to have some more conversation. This is fun.
I love it.
With Nikki Sanz.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Hi, everyone. I'm Larry Butler, and I want to send you a free digital copy of my new book, The Singer-Songwriter Rulebook, 101 Ways to Help You Improve Your Chances of Success. That's right. Everything you need to know to launch your career as a singer-songwriter, all based on my 40 years in the live performance arena. And believe me, I've seen it all. In my book, you'll find the 10 things you have to deal with before even thinking about becoming a singer-songwriter performer. You'll also learn about the 5 things every singer-songwriter can do this weekend to make their live show better. 5 things I can guarantee that you are not doing already. Plus, there's tips on songwriting and staging, photo and video shoots, publishing, merch, dozens of other topics, all written for people who don't particularly like to read. And again, it's free. Just go to the Business Side of Music website homepage and look for my book cover. Click on it, and a free digital copy of my book will be yours. I'm Larry Butler, and I approve of this message. Thanks.
Since 1963, Korg has been creating new experiences in music and performance. That is what drove the creation of some of Korg's most legendary products, such as the Poly 6, the M1, the Electribe, the Triton, the Minilog, the Kronos, Wave State, Op6, and most recently the Nautilus, which is what we have here in our studio. Korg is dedicated to creating new, innovative, and uncompromising instruments which maintain the highest quality to inspire music makers, past, present, and future. Visit Korg.com or your favorite Korg dealer to get your hands on one of their products and start creating new music always. Korg, the official sponsor of the Business Side of Music.
You're listening to the Business Side of Music.
Back in the studio here in Nashville, Tennessee, sitting across the podcast table from me, Nikki Sanz. I think we had as much fun during the break as we are during the show.
I know.
So let's talk about gigs, and it's GIGGS, which I think is cool. We talk about being on the road, but we also talk about being off the road. And I think if you're a true road dog, being on the road is your life. But every once in a while, we need that short little break. What am I going to do? And it's like you said, you have all these job skills. You're very good at, building things. But now what? I don't want to go flipping burgers at, the local drive-in or whatever. So you need to find that gig that articulates what you do when you're not on the road. So how does gigs work?
Yes. Gigs is the LinkedIn for the music industry.
I love that. That's a great analogy.
Yeah. So it's truly this very similar model where you have a profile. This profile is more catered to the music industry. So when you put in experience, it's more gig oriented instead of full employment, how LinkedIn is.
Right.
And when you put things on your gigs profile, it's just very obvious what you've done. And you have an about section to kind of get more of your personality, your top 5 concerts that you've ever attended, to kind of dive into who is this person a little bit more, your certifications and honors. You have availability calendar on your profile, and you can, again, like what we were talking about, you can be endorsed for very specific music industry endorsement, skills. So that's the profile component. You can network, you can connect with people, you add people to your crew, like your Facebook friends, LinkedIn connections. You add people to your crew, you can categorize them based on, when we need to get a PA. You can go to your group that you've said, these are my favorite PAs. And then you have, we'll have groups that tour manager forum, front of house, lighting, so you can go and ask questions to anyone. Right now we're disjointed. You mentioned a Facebook group you're a part of, and there are hundreds of Facebook groups where people get jobs and ask questions. Hopefully this place is the one centralized place where if you have any question of, you need the BNA airport contact because you lost a guitar, you know who to contact. Someone knows who. And then ultimately it is to post jobs. And right now, how I've seen jobs in the touring industry posted, it's all over the place. This hopefully will standardize what a post looks like, what's important to this job. You can make the artist anonymous, but the pay needs to be upfront, because there's a lot of gigs that I took not knowing what I was going to get paid just because I needed a gig.
Right.
So hopefully standardizing the profile and how employers actually look at someone's experience, and then standardizing the job post itself.
Is the job posting itself separate from the rest of this? I mean, so is it like a help wanted page or?
It's all in the same platform.
Okay.
And anyone can post, whether you're, I could have a production company page that I manage, and I could post jobs from my production company page or from Nikki Sanz from my personal page. So and you can also post as anonymous. So you can, as a member of gigs, it's an exclusive, there's an application process to get in so that we know that you're a real person and you have some skill or connection into the music industry. Once you're in, all gigs members have access to the job board in itself that's on the the platform, chatting abilities, networking abilities, and profile creation. And you can share your profile with anyone. So if I type in Nikki Sanz on Google, my gigs profile will show up and anyone can see it. But in order to access any of the other features of gigs, you have to be a member.
But there is a bit of a vetting process to get into gigs. So, well, I haven't ever worked a show, but I sure like how the lights look. Mm-hmm. You have to have a little more substance than that to get in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
what is that baseline?
Mm-hmm. The crazy thing, actually, I still want that person in there because everyone needs their first gig somehow. And everyone there are plenty of hiring managers that want that person who has no experience. We all had our first gig, and thank God for it. And we probably didn't get paid for most of them because I definitely did it for a while. But I still want that college senior, college junior that's just looking for experience.
Right.
What's going to be when they are in there, maybe they're studying music, maybe they are looking for an internship, something, but it's clear that they want to be in music. On their profile, it's going to be super obvious what they've done.
Or not done.
Yeah. So there's a touring section and a non-touring section. You're going to know right away if they're applying to your job, if they have any experience or not. And a lot of people are looking for someone with zero experience to drive their van and sell their merch.
Yeah. As long as you don't drink or drive and you've got a valid driver's license.
Yes.
And you're warm, you're not room temperature.
Right.
My very first gig was 1975. I was still in high school.
Wow.
And it shows my age. Mm-mm. And it was a free concert. So the guy who put it on, he didn't charge tickets. You didn't have a ticket to get in. I don't know how he financed it. But it was some pretty big legends that played at this thing. And, well, unfortunately, it wound up being a riot.
Wow.
And the police got called in. And, they're firing tear gas into the crowd. And
oh my God.
In the meantime, I'm this kid on stage going, what do I do? What do I do? You want to talk about baptism by fire.
Yeah.
But that made the news. And that news got picked up by some stations in Los Angeles who wound up calling the guy who put on the show, and he said, we want you to start producing shows in these markets for us. We like your style. We like your panache.
Wow.
And bring on board whoever you need. And so the next thing I know, I'm a production runner.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm 19 years old, and I'm picking up bands at hotels and still didn't get paid. But the experience was wonderful. Mm-hmm. But as things evolved, you start getting a name for yourself, and people go, okay, you have a worth. Mm-hmm. We're going to pay you this much. And when you're young and stupid, you go, okay, that's great.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
Well, in an industry too that everyone wants to get in, I think it's tough to accept, but I think it's a pretty good model where everyone wants to be behind the scenes in this industry. Everyone wants to, know the ins and outs, be behind the smoke and mirrors. So make it hard to get in because there are plenty of people. I only lasted 5 years on the road and, so some people only last a few shows. So make them.
Some last one. Yeah.
And people don't like the long hours. They don't like walking 30,000 steps a day. They don't like a lot. It's a hard job.
It really is.
And people don't know how hard it is. And so I think it's good to weed people out that way. So get them to start in the hardest jobs, which is hospitality, catering, and merch, production running.
Yeah.
I remember, I was like, I'm just running errands for this. I'm grocery shopping. I'm picking up dry cleaning. I'm doing the laundry for these tours as a production runner. But then I was understanding each show. Not only I got to meet the tour manager, and production assistant on every tour, but then I was also, this in-ear is broken. I need to know what is broken about it. I need to know the right place to go to it so that when I was on tour, I could tell the production runner what to do and where to go and how to fix things and how much things should cost. So the production runner is like, that is ground zero of
it really
get
is.
in and see if you like this. It's a long day. And trust me, your day is not as hard as the people on the tour doing it. So I do like that because it's like, do you like this? Because if you do, you will thrive.
Is this fun for you?
Yeah. And it was fun for me and I think that's why so many people who toured can't leave the music industry. It just gets in your blood, those long hours. And this is where gigging in general, because I would definitely say I'm a gigging professional. I'm working on Wednesday, the CBS New Year's Eve taping. That's, long day. Don't know anything that I'm stepping into, but I think that's the gigging professional. You get there, you learn, you might be working 24 hours straight, but you do it with confidence and kindness, and everyone you just know when someone has worked gigs or not.
You do find that out in very short order. You really do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's the same type of person, and I think that's why entertainment industry is all kind of the same type of person. And so eventually gigs will turn from touring to TV and film, sports, corporate events.
Oh, I agree.
All gigging.
Yeah, because it's all under that entertainment umbrella.
Exactly.
When I first started being a stagehand and didn't know the difference between stage right and stage left,
yeah,
it was a lot of being in the trucks and hustling speaker cabinets. And back in those days, the sound system was not as efficient as it is today. Bigger was better back then. So you had some of these cabinets, so, it took 4 guys to move them. And you're in the truck with all these other sweaty guys, at 3 o'clock in the morning, and all you want to do is just go home because you're so tired. But you get the job done. And that's changed a little bit. But a lot of people that come to me who want to get into the business, get into the touring business, I say, well, that's great. Yeah, that's nice. You have no experience whatsoever. Go be a stagehand somewhere.
Yes.
I don't care if it's at a club or a theater or an arena or an auditorium or a stadium. Be a stagehand. Learn what that's all about before you think about you want to go on the road, because that's a huge wake-up call.
Oh, my gosh.
Just like being a production runner.
Oh, yeah.
The story I told you about my sister who, at her age, I'm not going to say,
of course,
found out what it was like to be a production runner and goes, wait a minute, this isn't glamorous. I'm seeing the rough edges.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the business.
She's seeing that the tour manager's office is the inside of a very smelly locker room in an arena.
Yeah.
It's not glamorous. And that's the other tough side is most days of work are just spent inside of venues. You don't even get to really see the cities you're going to.
Yeah.
And that's just a shame. But you were all over the place.
It's so funny you say that because my wife, her cousin is in Maine right now. They're on one of these cruises, New England Coast cruises.
Fun.
And she said, yeah, they just left Portland, Maine. And I said, yeah, Portland. Lucy, I was at the arena there. She goes, did you see the city? No.
No, of course not.
You get off the bus, you go you don't even see the daylight, and then you get back on the bus and you go to the next city. Now, when you had days off, it was kind of nice.
Yes.
But if you want to see the world, join the Navy.
Right.
Because you're not going to do it from a tour bus unless you sit in the front lounge and look out the window.
That's it.
At 70 miles an hour.
And I mean, what you remember most about each city is kind of the quality of the showers in that venue.
Yeah, it's so funny. We were down in Gulfport, Mississippi a year or so ago to see her brother, and the arena there in Gulfport's on the main highway. And we're driving by, and I look at it and I go, oh, I was there with Leanne Rimes and Brian White in 97 or 98.
Oh, my gosh.
And they go, how do you know that? And I said, you just do.
You just floods back.
Yeah. Memories.
Yes.
Some better than others.
What's that? The St. Louis Arch?
Right.
I saw it in a runner van just from a hotel to the venue. I'm like, oh, that's the thing. That's the St. Louis thing. And that's
quick. Let me get my phone out so I can take a picture.
Through the
window. And everything's all blurry because you're scooting down the road.
That was my view of St. Louis. It was beautiful.
Mine was London. I got 24 hours off in London, and I wound up having a meeting that I really didn't want to go to. So it was a dinner meeting. So I finished dinner meeting. I want to go to the Hard Rock Cafe in London. I want to get my jacket and my little guitar pin for my collection, and they're closed.
Oh.
And I'm like, So I find out that they open at 10 o'clock the next morning. I have a 2 o'clock flight that afternoon. So I get and my hotel's out at Heathrow, which is an hour from London. So I take the last train back to my hotel at Heathrow. Mm-hmm. Next morning, I get up bright and early. I take the train into London. I'm in one of those cabs.
Yes.
And he's going through Piccadilly Circus and Hyde Park. And I'm like, click, click, click. And then, of course, back then, no cell phones. And then I get the film developed and everything's just a blur.
Oh.
like, well, memories.
Well, that's the also struggle is on the day off. Do you sleep and actually take care of your
And
health?
do your laundry and
get what you need to get done?
Yeah.
Or do you look at London? I mean, that's why when you get home, you're just beat down and you have to just rot for like 5 days straight, and then you go back on the road.
So why do we do this? Then?
What is going on?
Why are we encouraging this with gigs?
You know what? I think it is, and I at least I think it's different for every person. For me, when I get to go to concerts now, man, I'm enjoying them because I'm a concert goer. But there's just nothing like facing the opposite direction during a show and just watching the crowd, feeling that energy, and just seeing what music does to people. I mean, it's a drug that everyone, is all there for one reason. You all like this music, and just watching everyone, there's nothing like it. I think it's all the hard 19-hour day is worth it when you see how happy everyone is.
This is how bad things are for me. I have not toured in 20 years or so. I think my last show was maybe 2016. I still can't go to a concert and sit in the audience.
I'm sure.
I can't. And my wife's like, we never go to shows. Go with my sister. I don't care.
Yeah. I know.
Because when I go to a show, I'm looking at the lighting truss. I'm looking at the guitar techs. She goes, you're not really enjoying the show. I'm looking at, what I used to do. And it's in your blood. You can't get that out. I'm a guy that still goes and stands by a tour bus just to inhale the fumes to go, yeah, I remember those days.
Oh, no, I totally, and it's also, the hardest part too is going and sitting in a bad seat when you just want to be sitting in front of house or side stage, and you have to watch the show next to some drunk guy when you're like, just get away from me.
Yeah.
I want to go watch it in the best seat in the house. That's another hard part. No, yeah, it's an adjustment for sure.
We're going to take another break, get another word in for our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to have some more conversation with Nikki Sanz, and we're going to find out how to get signed up and all that good stuff.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Whether you consider yourself a musician or not, music is all around us, and it affects our everyday lives. Whether it's background music influencing our shopping habits in a store, organ music adding the vibe to a baseball game, or a playlist convincing us to keep going on that last mile of a run. I'm Mindy Peterson, host of the podcast Enhance Life with Music, where we take a holistic look at music's benefits through the lens of science and medicine, entertainment, and business. You can find me and Enhance Life with Music at mpetersonmusic.com/podcast or wherever you get your audio.
It may have been Tammy Wynette who sang Stand By Your Man, but it was actually Nancy Jones who stood by the legendary George Jones for more than 30 years and helped bring him to the light. Now in her new book, Playin' Possum, readers get an intimate look at the country music legend through the eyes of his wife and partner. Nancy knew George Jones better than anyone. The good and the bad, the horrendous and the hilarious. Married in 1983, George quit his wild and wicked ways for a while, but Nancy learned all too soon that there were demons holding a strong grip on the man she loved. People who knew the possum credit Nancy's tenacious love, faith, and encouragement for saving George's life and rebuilding his career. For the first time in Playin' Possum, Nancy Jones reveals the true insider perspective and little-known stories about the country music legend, his battles with cocaine, alcohol, abusive behavior, battles with himself, and against the demons that sought to control and destroy him. Read the compelling first-hand account from the woman who refused to give up on George Jones. Playin' Possum is available now. Order your copy today from nancyjonesbooks.com, Amazon, and more.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back in the studio here, sitting across the podcast table. Believe it or not, folks, she's not left.
Crazy.
She stayed the whole time.
I'm having a great time.
I am too. And you and I, we kind of like, we're sheep. We start meandering off into the field. So to our listeners, I'm not going to apologize because we're just having too much fun today.
We can talk for hours. Yeah.
Gigs. We know how it works now. What does it take to get signed up? We touched on that a little bit. Is there a cost involved and all that good stuff?
Yes, to sign up. So we should be launching in about a week.
Okay.
So
by the time this airs,
yes,
you'll have launched.
Then let's pray.
Yeah. Let's hope, because otherwise we have to do a do-over.
I'm learning. Oh my gosh, I'm learning a lot about coming from the creative world into being a tech founder and learning everything that takes.
Right.
And the delays in tech, very interesting. I'm learning a lot, but hopefully we are launched by the time this airs, and you'll just go to gigs.live, Live.
And it's GIGGS.
Yes, sir.
Gigs.live.
GIGGS.live.
And I'll have that in the show notes. So
Thank you.
If they can't remember,
easy click.
Yeah, click on the show notes.
Thank you. You just register there, and you'll complete the very quick application process, uploading a resume and listing a couple of references. You'll get admitted into gigs. You set up the first thing you do when you set up a profile is you list all of your career interests and skills. So if I predominantly just want to be a tour manager, but I also could do PA or VIP or catering, you put everything that you are interested in doing, you'll get a notification every time a job is posted that fits your profile. And then once we get AI integrated, it will do the work for us. It'll be great. And you just set up your profile and you start networking, you start connecting with people, and you'll see the gigs magic from there. It's super simple.
Yeah. Do you see this being international? Because I've one of the things I do is I mentor a couple classes. And
great.
I've had people from Saudi Arabia and Belgium and Italy, and a lot of the questions I get are, I want to be a tour manager. How do I get into it? Well, where do you live? Well, I live in Rome. Is that something that Gigs is going to be able to handle?
We have people signed up that are in Italy, which is amazing. A lot of Europeans, and I tell them, we're not, I personally don't have all the jobs over there yet. This absolutely will be international. Yes. My goal is to really do this well and cater it to, I can't wait to get feedback and just make this, why don't we have this yet? Okay, maybe people have tried and it hasn't really worked right. I want to listen to everybody, and I want to change it to where it works. For touring specifically, we create this just incredible marketplace of touring professionals and companies. People are finding jobs. It's efficient. That's the dream. And then we expand internationally, and then we expand to other entertainment sectors, which is TV and film, sports, corporate events, anything gigging wise.
The sky's the limit.
Yes, but I want to nail touring first.
Is there a cost?
There will be. Not yet.
Okay.
There isn't, but our model is going to be membership. So $50 a year for access to all jobs.
Which is nothing.
Which is a day of per diem.
Yeah. Or what you'd spend on 10 coffees.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy that coffee's $10 now?
Yeah.
Genuinely. But anyways, 10 coffees, $5.
Yeah.
Honestly, coffee is more towards $10.
Okay,
it's crazy.
Tells you the last time I bought a coffee
and also
somewhere.
tells you my mental math right now. Yes, and then on the company side, eventually it'll be, pay per job post. We'll have different levels of what that company needs. If a catering company only needs a few hires a year, we'll cater that cost to them. We're working with Live Nation. They got thousands of jobs. So we'll have an enterprise level as well for the companies. And just make this extremely affordable, because Gigs is not a staffing company. We don't want people to have to pay so much to get people, but we want this to be a resource where finally companies and professionals can connect and find opportunities efficiently.
We have needed this for so long. This is amazing.
I'm so grateful to hear that. I just want to make sure I do it in the way that everyone wants it, and that this thing works, because I want to keep picking up gigs. I want people to keep finding things, and I want people to hire easier. It's just crazy that it doesn't exist yet. Yeah.
Well, thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
We're going to have you back, just in case you didn't know.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Busan.
I can assure you he is truly a very sick boy. Never had one lesson.